welcome to another week of Case Files
with Kat
and Ashley.
Hey.
Hey. What's up?
It's 2025 has been a year.
It really has.
Like we are just a few days in, it feels like. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a year. But yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm leaving soon, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always nervous. Like, I'm always a nervous wreck because, like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to forget something. There's going to be a major crisis.
Because you're working away from home. But you're still working.
It's almost like every time I go there, there's a natural disaster here. Like, one time was Hurricane Harvey, and then Hurricane Beryl, and then the freeze, and then I can't remember what it was last time. I think they had a tornado in North Carolina last time I was there. It's just here or there, there's always some kind of natural disaster. So I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen now?
All right, North Carolina, Texas, hang tight for the next couple of weeks.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Oh man. Anyways, but I'm good. I'm excited to see my nieces. So.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Oh.
That's all I got.
That's all you got. Well, you have a new beer.
I do. So I walk in and the wizard was like, we've got a special beer for you. He's so excited. It's from TP Beer, which stands for Turning Point Beer. And it's called Fist Bumps, like Goosebumps, but Fist Bumps. And it's got like the same font. The can is beautiful, guys. Like, I don't know how to describe this. This is so cool looking.
It's out of Bedford, Texas, you said?
Yeah, it's out of Bedford, Texas. I've never heard of them. But it's Fist Beers. It's Brewer Blood. But
Brewer Blood. That's the name of the
down
beer.
there it says Fist Bumps, and then down here it says Brewer Blood.
Oh my gosh.
But it says it's sour ale with orange, tangerine, and lemonade. I haven't tasted it yet, but
Here we
kind of
go.
looks like Gatorade. It's yellow. I don't know.
Oh. Oh,
that's good.
is that?
Oh my gosh, that's good. It's kind of tangy. So if you like tangy sour beers, it's really good. Like, really good.
Oh man.
It is definitely sour though. It's very tart, very sour.
It
Makes you pucker up, but it's really good.
My jaw is like clenched, like the back of my jaw just goes, ugh, as you just lick your lips. Okay,
I think this is supposed to be lemonade coming down the staircase instead of blood, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know, but it's really good. Anyways, highly recommend.
The Gatorade.
Well, your can is fancy.
It's not fancy.
I mean, it looks like a comic.
It's very comic booky, yeah. So this is out of St. Arnold, of course. And this one is new. It's the Tropic Boom Imperial IPA. This is 9.5%, my friend. What's yours?
What is this one? 6.5.
Oh.
Wow. A pint.
Yeah, this is it is tropical. It's very juicy. It's it's kind of it's hazy probably because it's very juicy.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of tropical.
Is that what hazy is? Juicy?
Yeah.
I don't drink IPAs,
there's this feels like it's probably not clear. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it tastes very citrusy.
I just never knew the difference between regular IPA, hazy, double.
Yeah, the hazy
Imperial.
is like the cloudy one, and then the other one is There's the East Coast and the West Coast IPA. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Above my.
I know. It's above my pay grade. It's just good or not good. This is very. It's very like tropical. Like it's nice. Okay.
Man, this is good.
Okay. She's like slurping.
I'm sorry, guys. Like, well, because it's like making me pucker. It's so good. Okay.
Drink away from the mic.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna probably not drink. She's like, I'm so sorry.
I'm just kidding. It's been a day. It's been a day. It's been in 24 hours, man. Mm-hmm. It's been 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready.
Like ready for the story?
I'm ready for the story. I'm ready for the story. I don't know. You want to talk about stuff? You have anything else to talk about?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to miss my support cats. I think they can travel. I think it's $75. I can take them on the plane with me.
No. Okay. No. I just joined a Facebook group called My Cat's an Asshole.
I love that group. I don't even have a cat, and I've been in that group forever. And I love
really?
Yeah,
it's really, it made me laugh. I was like, oh, I'm going to join that.
My support cats could never be assholes.
Well, Louis much nicer now, but I don't know if you remember. He didn't like people before we got Socks. So Socks made him a softie. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get replaced, so I better be nice."
Oh.
He was like, "They can just bring new ones home."
My doggies don't think I'm gonna just. See, that's my biggest thing. I hate leaving my dogs. Like, I miss my dogs so much when I'm out of town because I'm used to them sleeping next to me every night and like waking up with them in my face. And
they'll have fun because they'll be around all their friends.
I guess, but I want them to miss me, and
they're gonna miss you. They'll miss you at night and
they'll forget who I am, and when I come back. Anyways, let's just get into the story. I'm gonna make myself sad.
Oh, don't be sad.
Okay. Anyways, so. This is a story that I heard about a while back, and I hadn't really looked too much in it. I just thought it was really kind of wild. And then I dove deeper into it, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it is very much a case of domestic violence. It kind of highlights that, even if the woman does the right thing and leaves and all this kind of stuff, protective orders don't really make a difference sometimes.
Leaving is the most dangerous time.
And so I will just give that kind of trigger warning that there is some of that in this story. So Becky was just 41 years old when on the afternoon of February 23rd, 2023, so very recent, her own father discovered her lifeless on the bathroom floor of her Quincy, Illinois home. She had been dead for hours, shot a total of 14 times. None of those wounds were immediately fatal, and it was later said that she probably was alive for up to an hour, while she was bleeding out. What happened to Becky? Why was her father the one to find her? Well, it's really actually sad. And it was one that was sort of publicly foreshadowed by her murderer on national TV.
Stop it.
In January of 2020, the Bliefnick family appeared on an episode of Family Feud. Timothy Bliefnick, which was the husband to Becky, was part of this episode. We've probably all seen Family Feud. If you haven't, two families on opposite sides, they go up, they ask a question, whoever gets the highest answer, their family plays for a chance to win money. So Timothy's family goes up there, they chose to play. Steve Harvey walks up to him, and then he asked the question. But before I get there, so the Bliefnick family actually flew in from out of town to be on this episode. Timothy did not invite Becky to play with them. He intentionally left her out. So she was at a watch party in the town when this episode was being aired. So again, Timothy's family's turn. Steve Harvey is going down the line asking the question. The question is, what was the biggest mistake you made at your wedding? I'm going to play this clip real quick. This is Timothy answering. This is Becky's husband on national TV.
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake.
He says, not my mistake. But when he says it and you see his face and the way he's very serious when he says it, the only reason he kind of backtracks after that is because of the reaction that you heard from the audience. And so Becky's at home. There's a watch party for this episode when it airs. People are excited because their town is on Family Feud. People know Becky and Timothy, and then they see this on air. Now, throughout this entire...
I'm rarely speechless, but that took my breath away.
Yeah. He was quick with the answer too. Steve Harvey gets him and he's already got the answer.
That was so quick. And honey, I love you, but I do. Said I do. And that actually just made me go,
yeah.
I just can't even imagine and you said there's a watch party and all your friends are there.
No, I get you're trying to guess the answers on the board, but like I just feel, I don't know. I feel like there's a million other answers. They're looking for fun answers.
Drink too much.
Yeah. You're late.
You don't eat, or you spilled something. You trip. I don't know. Like,
to me, it's more of like his facial expression when he says it, and like how quickly he says it, and then the way he only backtracks when he gets heat for it.
Can you replay it?
Yeah. So, and I will say throughout all of this, at every time someone brings it up to him, his response was, "Oh, it was just a joke. It wasn't meant to be mean." So you couldn't just say I was just answering the question. You just say it was a joke. It's not a joke to your wife. But anyways.
Oh, God,
To wife. What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do.
She knew exactly what to say.
Not my mistake. Not my mistake. I love my wife.
Authorities say in February of this year, Tim Bliefnick killed.
So, yeah. So he makes that face. And
so that was in, so she was found in February of 23.
So that
when
episode
was
in 2020. The death was in 2023, so 3 years later. They're still married at the time the episode airs. So, so again, he says, I do. He makes this like very dead serious face when the audience reactions, as you heard. So, as you heard, we all know where this story's heading. But I wanted to give a little bit of background on who Becky and Timothy were, kind of the timeline leading up to this episode, what happens after, and then the aftermath of what comes. So, Becky
we will, by the way, for those wondering, while you burp, there are resources on our page. If anybody is needing resources, they're there. If you are looking for help to get out of a dangerous situation or just want to talk, please reach out to us. Please.
Yes. So Becky was born Rebecca Bernadette Postel on November 19th, 1981, and was 41 when she was murdered. She was born in Quincy, Illinois, and was the valedictorian of her high school. This honor was just the first of many academic and professional honors she earned in her lifetime, because truly, when I was reading about her, she sounds like an amazing person. You know, when someone gets murdered, everyone's like, oh, they lit up a room, they were great, they were this and that, and they're not always those things, but I feel like she genuinely was. She graduated at the top of her class from Quincy University with a bachelor's degree in biological science with a minor in chemistry. She had always imagined herself as working in the medical profession, and after working as a pharmaceutical sales rep for a while, which she was the top sales rep for the company she was working for, she left to pursue a career in nursing because she just genuinely wanted to help people. Like, she wanted to care for people. Right. She wanted to help people. Right. So she graduated from Blessing Ryman College of Nursing and Health Sciences, as well as receiving the Faculty Outstanding Senior Award. And then to just show what kind of person she was, she gave birth to her third child during spring break of her senior year and only missed one day of school.
Shut up. Wow.
I've never had a kid, but I imagine I wouldn't be back at school the next day.
Gosh, Sarah and I were just having this conversation about, like, you know, when you're a brand new mom and how overwhelming it is. Yeah. And then to, like, the guilt you feel of going back to work. And this woman has a baby, and
she has 3 at this point. That was her third. So she's got 3 kids. She misses one day of school.
She's like, I got this. She's a pro. But I mean, like, Sarah has 3. Yeah. I can't imagine her just going back.
Well, and she graduated cum laude, or however you say it. I can't.
Cum laude, yeah.
In both of the universities, with the first degree and with the second degree. So she was smart, and she worked hard, and she was taking care of her kids, and she was working during all this, because I'm sure, as you can already imagine by the answer that was given on the show, that her husband was not much help in any sense.
I do want to say this. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It does not know. It does not discriminate. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how rich you are. It can happen. So, yeah. No, just see the red flags. Know the red flags.
Becky worked for Quincy Medical Group in gastrointestinal surgery before transitioning to Blessings Hospital's emergency room. During COVID, she additionally worked as a travel nurse at both Northeast Regional Medical Center in Kirksville and Hannibal Regional Hospital in Montana. I think it's Montana, M.O. I guess I should have looked that up, but I think it's Montana.
Missouri.
Is it Missouri or is it Montana?
I think Montana's in T. But anyway.
Well, whatever.
We haven't been in school for a long time, y'all.
Stay in school.
We have never had to write the state Montana or Missouri.
Listen, I graduated with communications degree, not at the top of my class. Okay. Okay, hold on. We're just going to look it up.
I did
Missouri.
Theater. I did theater.
Okay. Missouri, Kirksville, Missouri, and Hannibal Regional Hospital in Hannibal, Missouri. In 2020, Becky was nominated for the International Daisy Award, which honors exceptional care given by extraordinary nurses. The nomination testimonial stated, "I got to kiss my husband and tell him how much I loved him, all because of Becky. There are no words to express how grateful I am to her for what she did." Beyond her registered nurse credentials, she was also a certified trauma nurse specialist and a sexual assault nurse examiner. At the time of her death, she worked at
She was a SANE nurse? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm telling you, this woman was like she was amazing.
So, wow.
So at the time of her death, she worked at Blessing Hospital in Vascular Access and was working towards her nurse practitioner certification. In addition to her career, Becky always made time for service, like community service. So according to members of St. Peter's Grade School Association, where Becky volunteered for the last 5 years of her life, Becky was a tremendous asset and always willing to help or pitch in, whether it was coordinating the mother-son events, planning the teacher conference luncheons, or coordinating the school's rooms mothers. Her love of animals led to her volunteering at Homeward Bound Wagon, a nonprofit all-volunteer animal rescue group. And Becky was also slated to begin volunteering in the spring at Quest Stables, which focuses on providing therapeutic riding services. She was a busy woman.
Oh, wow.
She was an amazing woman. As dedicated as she was to her professional pursuits, her most profound devotion was to her family. Her boys were her world. Her life's greatest gifts, she would routinely say that. She was the quintessential boy mom. She, for Halloween, she made the Transformers costumes that actually transformed, creating custom first of day school posters each year, jumping all in with fishing and frog hunting and anything sports they wanted to do. Her Catholic faith was of great importance and were diligently to instill her love of God in her boys. So Becky's friends and colleagues, they just had countless stories of how she brightened their lives, like how she would go above and beyond with her time, her energy, there were so many, nobody had anything bad to say about her. So from dropping in to check on a friend with a migraine to dropping off a crib to a friend in need and staying to help assemble it, she always paid things forward. She really wanted to make a lasting impact. She really, truly wanted to help people. She wanted to give back to her community.
I feel like we would have been friends.
Yeah. She always found a way to highlight the achievements of others while never demanding the spotlight, although she definitely deserved to be in the spotlight. People often said that she loved to laugh and that her laugh was truly contagious. Everyone that knew her remembers her random humor. They said that she would make the most mundane things really fun. Timothy was born in 1983.
Timothy was a wet blanket. The end.
This piece of shit was born in 1983. He was younger than her, and he played football at Quincy University. So Becky and Timothy, they were students at Quincy University and began dating 2 years after they graduated and eventually got married in 2009 to start their family. As I mentioned, they had 3 boys. So her boys were all pretty young. I think it was like 3, 5, and 12 or 3, 5, and 10, somewhere in that range. But they were all young, close, yeah. And they were all close in age. So Becky's sister has said in interviews that Becky was happy with Timothy for the first 5 years of the marriage until something in their relationship changed. Sarah, her sister, stated in an interview with 48 Hours that he got progressively more manipulative and controlling. She went on to explain that Tim and Becky's marriage became even more strained because Tim did not support Becky's decision to go to nursing school. While Timothy acknowledged that he wasn't in favor of Becky taking on a career in nursing...
Wait, what did he do again?
I don't know. I never saw anything that said he even had a job, to be honest. So I don't know what he did.
Okay.
He said that it was out of concern for her well-being that he didn't want her to go into a career of nursing.
Oh, he wanted her to stay at home with the kids.
He just thought she would be...
Homemaker.
Well, he thought that if she was in school, because he didn't mind that she was doing the pharmaceutical stuff, but he thought that she was putting herself at risk by being in a hospital. In January of 2021, after 11 years of marriage, Timothy filed for divorce from Becky, and things turned very ugly very quickly. Sarah stated in later interviews that she thought the real reason Timothy filed for divorce was because he could not control Becky. When she got that nursing degree, it just proved to him basically like he could not control her and tell her what to do anymore, and he didn't like it. So the couple was in the middle of a very contentious divorce. Divorce documents revealed that the couple argued almost over everything: money, their home, custody of the kids. In the months after Tim had filed for divorce, Becky texted numerous friends that she was fearful of Tim's behavior towards her.
He was a salesman.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, he was a salesman, and she originally was a sales rep, so maybe he felt like they were even playing, and then she became this amazing nurse and, probably was making more money than him, getting more recognition than him, and we all know how certain people feel about that. So the one text said, "He has screamed in my face. He shoved me in front of the kids and has thrown things across the room." In a text to another friend, she said, "I truly believe Tim has serious mental health problems and he's becoming more vengeful and more unpredictable." Becky had sent a text to her sister that said, "If something ever happens to me, please make sure the number one person of interest is Tim." She would later make similar statements to friends. There were some other messages where she was talking about she was afraid like Tim would harm himself or the kids or her. She sent a lot of messages. Oh, not just during the divorce, but prior to it when they were still married and stuff. She was concerned about his behavior.
So one of the things, when we take a hotline call, one of the questions that we ask is, have they ever, has your partner ever threatened to kill themselves if you leave? Because that is that gives you points. If that's a yes, then that increases your danger assessment level, because they're saying that they're going to kill themselves, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're really thinking of killing themselves. They're probably too narcissistic to do that. They're going to kill you first, Yeah. So it's do you have kids from another marriage? Have they ever threatened to kill themselves? There's all these things. There's just these little markers that we ask in every phone call to assess how dangerous of a situation that they're in. And so, so someone that makes my ears perk up if they've threatened that.
Yeah, there was a lot of messages that she sent to people, basically making sure that if anything happened to her kids, everyone knew it was Tim. She wanted to make sure that everyone knew that it was Tim. So despite filing for divorce in 2021, the proceedings dragged on for years because several conditions were contested. The conditions included the location of a handgun that was owned by Tim Bliefnick, custody arrangements involving the children, and whether or not Ray Bliefnick, Tim's father, could be alone with the three sons. I'm going to talk more about that. Denny Woodworth, one of Rebecca's divorce lawyers, said Rebecca filed a temporary restraining order against Ray Bliefnick in August of 2021.
And this is his dad.
Yes, okay. Because she did not want him to have any contact with the couple's children. Ray, a retired sales consultant in Decatur, Illinois, had purchased a home on the same block as Rebecca.
What?
Wait,
what, after the divorce? Or after they've separated?
I think it was maybe during. I don't think he always lived there, because it doesn't mention that he was living there during their marriage. So
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's creepy. I'm sorry.
So she also filed a petition to have Tim return a handgun to her, but his defense attorney revealed that he could not find it. So during their marriage, she had gifted him a 9mm because he liked to shoot guns, whatever. He claimed he couldn't find it to return it.
Okay, how does one lose a gun?
Okay, I feel like that should have been an investigation on its own, but it wasn't.
Well,
and that will come back up later.
How does one lose a gun? Honestly.
When you have 3 children, who knows?
No. You are supposed to be locking it up and putting it
Well, that's what I'm
tight.
saying.
I mean,
He had 3 children, and on top of saying he lost. Anyways,
oh my God.
Jerry Timmerwell, Rebecca's second divorce attorney, testified that Tim would consider evenly splitting custody of the children only if Rebecca would undergo a psychological evaluation. He said Tim wanted his father to have unsupervised time with the children. Testimony from friends showed Rebecca worried Tim would turn violent and Ray would take their children away from her. Now, that's not why she didn't want the kids to go over there.
I was going to say, like, that, because the first 5 years were fine.
I'm going to talk about it later, but essentially she felt that Ray would inappropriately touch them and stuff because of other prior things that
he was a creeper.
So this is what she said. I'm scared of his behavior and constant lies. On top of that, he has our guns and ammunition, she told childhood friend Nicole Bateman. To Rebecca Spots, a coworker, she also wrote that she feared her father-in-law. It has gotten to the point that I hate even going to work for fear he will secretly take off with the kids and I won't see them for a long time or ever. In January of 2023, this is like a month before she was murdered, she told a woman named Melissa that she felt Tim could snap at any moment and that Tim had told her, "You'll be dead before you get any of my money." In later interviews, Timothy would state that Becky was the one who was vengeful. He also stated that he eventually sought an order of protection against her, which stated Becky stalked and harassed him. 3 months later, Becky filed an order of protection against Timothy. Sarah, which was Becky's sister, says she recommended Becky seek help from a domestic violence organization. And eventually, that's when, Becky tried and, she was told to file an order of protection against Tim. In her petition, she alleged that Tim entered her residence without permission. She also said that he repeatedly falsified interactions between the two. That order of protection was not granted. To be fair, the judge also did not grant Timothy his order of protection against Becky, but a judge did ultimately order Tim and Becky to stay away from each other's residence except for when exchanging their kids, and the judge also ordered Tim once again to return the 9mm handgun that Becky had gifted him. It was never returned. On February 23rd, 2023.
I'm so angry. I'm so angry right now. There's so many things that I'm just like,
it gets worse.
The
entire time Timothy remains like, I was innocent. She was crazy.
Yeah, he still
she
says
was
he's innocent,
vengeful.
sure.
She stalked me. She harassed me. I didn't do any of that. He remains to this day saying that he did not kill his wife.
But I think what I want, I think I want people to see this as like, why that question, why don't they just leave?
Yep.
And this is such a great example. She's got 3 children and she's got her job. She's doing all these things, but she's got 3 children that she has to like walk this fine line, tiptoe, walking on eggshells. I can't let your guard down. You have to, you still have to follow whatever court order that they get visits. You still have to do all these things. Don't make them mad because they could go off at any minute. And you don't know if they're just going to go, you know what, fuck her. And then take the kids and be on the run. And she's got not just this husband, she's got this father-in-law. And that's two crazy people
Living on her street. She doesn't, orders were not given. Like the protection orders were never approved.
I wish she had gone into a shelter. I wish that she had taken her, I not blaming her at all, but I know that there's a I've got a place, he's not here. And there's this level of safety that exists when you're just like, I'm by, I've got my own place. It's not an everyday thing, but there's still that he no longer has control. He no longer has power and control from her in her everyday life. And that's why it's dangerous to leave. That's when it's dangerous, because they're like, I am losing that power and control, and I'm going to lose. And I don't want to give you money, and I don't want to give you the kids, and I don't want all these things just go. Pow.
And what I thought was interesting was that he was the one that filed for divorce, because normally, the woman
she did.
No, he filed because he claimed that it just wasn't working anymore. And that's when her sister said that she really thought it was because he could no longer control her. He did not like that she went to nursing school and she started making more money and all that stuff. And then when she went to nursing school and she graduated as a nurse and all that and started her nursing career, he divorced her. It wasn't up until that point.
So she was right. And that reminds me of Savannah. Remember, Savannah, who we brought her dad onto the show. And we do the 5K every year for her. But she was moving on in the world. She was doing better for herself. And he was losing control. She wasn't trying to get a divorce.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm making you birthday dinner. And she was doing all the lovey-dovey stuff for him. And he knew he was going to kill her, because if he can't have her, then nobody can.
Yeah.
That's ultimately,
I
can't control you anymore. Oh, I'm going to show you.
So on February 23rd, 2023, Rebecca did not show up to pick her sons up in the school called Timothy. He called Rebecca's father to go check on her, knowing goddamn well what he would find, which I think is incredibly sick on his part. Her father, William, found her dead in the bathroom, having been shot 14 times. Police quickly determined that the killer had broken into Becky's home by prying open an upstairs window in one of the children's bedrooms.
Oh my God.
Video shows a police officer later reenacting how investigators believe the assailant scaled the house. The investigators stated, this is a direct quote, the person had climbed up on there. There was a patio chair that was pulled over. They walked past Becky's window in her bedroom, and then they went to a room of one of the boys, and they pried open, broke the window open, and went in. You could almost trace their path to Becky's room. They had kicked in or broken in the door violently. Becky then ran into the bathroom, turned around, and got shot. It would have been 1:11 in the morning, because we know that 1:11 in 10 seconds, Becky tried to call 911 on her cell phone. She had dialed 91126, and the phone was knocked out of her hand, and it was found behind the door with the numbers still on the screen. I would like to note that her boys were at home when this happened, but they were sleeping. Nothing appeared to be stolen.
They didn't wake up? Holy shit, they didn't wake up?
I don't know. The things I read said that the children were at home asleep.
Did he just leave them there?
Well, I would assume he would have had to take them to school or whatever, because they would have noticed their mother. You know what I mean? I could be mistaken. The children may not have been there, but from what I understood, the children were asleep in the rooms, because he did this at 1 a.m. Nothing appeared to be stolen, and neighbors didn't see or hear anything, but there was evidence left behind. A partial shoe print near the port of entry, 8 spent 9mm shell casings. In case you missed it, the 9mm was the gun that was missing, that was supposed to be turned over, because the judge had ordered Timothy to return it.
They only found 8, but she was shot 14?
I think that's initial. Like, they walked in.
Okay,
there was initial 8, because she was shot.
And then they were probably under her.
There was actually 26 bullet shots total.
Shut up.
14 hit her.
How did they not wake up? They must have not been at home.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought they said that they were, but I'll go back and look.
We went to an active attack training yesterday, and because I was like, how loud is a shotgun? Like, how loud? I've never heard.
He had a silencer on the gun.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a part of it, but I don't know that for sure the kids weren't home.
The hate that one has to feel to shoot a gun 26 times.
Okay, I'm sorry. The kids were not home. They were staying with his father. or with Timothy. So he left them at his home, went and killed her. So that's my bad. I misread it. I thought they were staying there. But when Timothy did this, the children were actually sleeping at his house. He left them alone to come to her house. He took them to school, dropped them off. She was supposed to pick them up. She didn't come. The school called him. He called her father saying he couldn't make it because of work. Her father's the one that found her. Anyways. Okay. So nothing appeared to be stolen. Again, they found these 9mm shell casings. It would later be determined the 9mm gun that was used in the shooting was the gun that Timothy had been ordered to return to Becky and claimed he lost. I will say, it was said that on February 10th, 13 days before this shooting, Timothy had called the police department and asked them if they could return the 9mm gun to Becky because he didn't want to go to her face-to-face, and the police denied the request. Would he still have murdered her? Probably. But I think it's really strange that he was trying to return this gun. He called the police department for assistance and they refused him. So, detectives canvassing the neighborhood looking for surveillance video didn't have to go very far. Becky's next door neighbors, the Hymans, had installed a camera on the side of their house after a car break-in more than a year earlier. It pointed at their driveway, which ran alongside Becky's house. When asked what it would record, they told investigators it records movement. So anytime it senses movement, it will notify us on our phones. The Hyman's camera didn't capture anything on the night of the murder, but it did capture something unusual about 24 hours earlier. We have slowed down some of the videos so you can see them better. Like they were, like when they were talking to the investigators, they slowed it down, they played it, and they showed at 1:05 a.m. a person was seen walking down the driveway towards the back of Becky's house. And what happened to be that same person was seen again 48 minutes later, this time walking in the opposite direction. The camera had also captured a similar incident about a week earlier on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Taylor Hyman, which is the wife, stated that I saw that one in the middle of the night and texted Becky immediately. I told her, hey, our motion, that like the lights went off. There's someone in your yard. And I told her we just saw someone in the driveway, and she didn't respond until the next morning, probably sleeping. She said that she didn't see anything, but she did say that she thought she had been hearing voices in her backyard and her motion light had gone off. She was acting rather paranoid, in my opinion. Like basically panic, like anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, well, I thought it was nothing, and I thought I was hearing voices, and now you're telling me you saw somebody. So like paranoid in that sense, not like they thought she was crazy. So at the time, the neighbors thought that it was just someone in the neighborhood looking for like casing houses, right? Like seeing who's home, like what kind of like how to break in, that kind of stuff. Officers went around the entire neighborhood trying to find more videos and were able to find a video from a house not far from Becky's, and it was and they also found another video from the Quincy bus barn. So those videos both showed a person riding a bike in the direction of Becky's house. After analyzing the recorded times of these videos, authorities began to suspect that the person seen on the bike was the same person seen in the driveway those multiple different nights. Every time you see a person at the Hyman residence, you see a person riding a bike down the road just a few minutes before you see the person in their video. So even though there was no video from the Hyman residence of the morning that Becky was killed, there was a video of a person on a bike riding in the direction of Becky's house right before the murder and in the opposite direction right after what they felt like the murder would have been. According to the police, this wasn't just a part of town where people would just go riding their bikes in the middle of the night because it's wintertime, it's freezing. People don't just ride around in the middle of the morning. And so when you have this surveillance video and it matches the timeline, it's very suspicious because that person had, like, they were on a mission. But there was a very big problem. You cannot tell anything from these videos other than that the bike did not appear to have reflectors on the wheels. You couldn't tell if the person was a man, a woman, what were they really wearing, like, You couldn't see those things.
Nothing.
You could just tell that the bike didn't have reflectors on the wheel, which comes into play later. Becky was killed 1 week before the divorce case was supposed to go to trial. So when Sarah informed law enforcement of their history, Tim quickly became a person of interest. Authorities kept digging, and days later, they found a bike with no reflectors on the wheels, just like the one they had seen on their surveillance videos, less than a half a block from where Tim was living. Tim was arrested on March 13th, 2023, on charges of home invasion and first-degree murder. The prosecutor said Timothy had used Google to research how to murder his estranged wife, including things like how to force a window open with a crowbar. Other searches included how to make a homemade silencer, how to wash off gunpowder, average Quincy Police Department response time to 911 calls. When Tim was arrested, it made national news in a large part because of his appearance on Family Feud. The one where he said he made that, the biggest mistake was saying I do at his wedding. People kept resharing these clips like they recalled that he did this. So during the trial, Timothy's attorney, who I have to say, she just seems like the dumbest person in my mind, because I'm going to read you later some of her answers at court and some of them in an interview with 48 Hours, which is a really great interview that I have linked. She just seems like way out there. So during the trial, Timothy's attorney tried to say that she believes the investigator should have given more weight to the idea that it could have been a random prowler who killed Becky in a break-in gone wrong. Now, you remember, police found those videos of a person on a bike and a person walking down Becky's neighbor's driveway. Tim insisted it was not him in the videos, even though the bike with no reflectors on the wheels was found by his house. However, prosecutors say they did find evidence tying him to this bike. They were able to download information off of his phone and found that he had a fake Facebook account for the name John Smith. Very creative.
Oh, so creative. Oh my God.
And they say that John Smith appeared to be looking at this very particular bike for sale, a blue bike with no reflectors on the wheels.
He did this on Facebook? Mm-hmm. What a dum-dum.
On his phone. Just like the bike that was found by his house that was seen in the videos on the nights leading up to Becky's murder. Timothy's attorney responded, I mean, I have a fake Facebook account. I'm not proud of it, but people do it. Like, what? This is what I mean. She sounds so stupid. Oh, so like, what? I mean,
who doesn't? I mean, you know what I mean? Who doesn't have a fake Facebook account with John
I mean, you
Smith?
Don't admit that when you're not the one on freaking trial.
When you're not the one on trial. You're 100%.
Like, you're not helping your client's case. So the prosecutors then responded, isn't it a bit of a problem, though, that on his phone he gets alert for this very specific blue bike that was seen on the videos? And his attorney responded, sure. Are there similarities? Sure. But that's not the only abandoned bike that's been found around this town.
My God. She's not helping.
I want to talk a little about the trial, because the prosecutors were not fucking around. During this 48-hour interview later, the reporter for that wasn't messing around. Like, they all asked really important questions. So some of these responses come from the interview, some come from the court. I'm going to try to keep it not confusing, but either way, it just goes to further show how insane his attorney was and how insane he was. I'm pretty sure she was court appointed. I remember reading that, but either way, holy shit, they're both insane. Okay, so on May 23rd, 2023, 3 months exactly to the date after Becky was gunned down in her home, Tim was officially went on trial for her murder. Prosecutor Josh Jones and Lori Hick began by oh my God, I can't say the word. I can't say it.
Methodically?
Yes, there we go. Laying out the evidence they say points directly to Tim, starting with those odd pieces of plastic that were found around Becky's body. So all around Becky's body were like pieces of and shreds of plastic, like grocery bags, which they didn't know why they were like shredded up, okay? And so the investigators did determine that those were shreds from an Aldi grocery store bag. And in the defendant's home, they found a stack of Aldi bags. He had fired through an Aldi bag, either an attempt to muffle the sound or to catch his shell casings. And instead, the bag just shredded because you're fucking shooting a gun through it. Like, I don't know really what you thought was going to happen there. But in the process, the DNA that was left behind on pieces of that plastic were Tim's.
Of course it was.
They matched Tim. So an expert testified that it was more likely than not that Tim was the contributor, and that Tim also couldn't be excluded from DNA that was found under Becky's fingernails. That was 3 times more likely. So the DNA that was there was 3 times more likely to have come from the defendant or a male relative, like her sons, right? But people were like, why would her son?
Or her dad? Or his dad?
Yeah. So the interview in 48 hours, during the 48 hours interview, the reporter asked the attorney about the defense that she used, because in the courtroom, when they brought this up, she says, everybody in town has Aldi bags that they're hoarding. And the interviewer said, I know that you said that, but with DNA from Tim? To which his attorney said, well, in Becky's case, the DNA could have been there because they transferred stuff back and forth for the boys in Aldi bags. To which the interviewer said there was DNA found under Becky's fingernails. To which his attorney just kind of was like, that could be there from her sons. I mean, that could have, that doesn't prove that Tim murdered her. Which she argued the same sort of thing in court. Prosecutors told the jury during the trial that the police found a crowbar in Tim's basement, and that they called an expert to the stand who testified that she compared it to tool marks left on the window that was pried open at Becky's. While there were
so many people own crowbars.
Oh, wait till you hear it.
Oh my God.
While there were microscopic consistencies, she couldn't say with 100% scientific certainty that this crowbar made the marks, though she said it would be very difficult for it to have matched to another. Basically saying that, while technically she couldn't say it was 100%, it was 100% that crowbar. The jury heard about the couple's divorce, and from Becky's sister and the friends, and they all read these texts from Becky, and they all testified that Becky was so afraid of Tim. Several of them acknowledged that they regretfully didn't take steps to help her. The prosecution argued that the timing of the murder was also significant.
They couldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish they wouldn't have that guilt.
Well,
I know. Yeah.
Becky was killed 1 week before the couple's divorce case was set to go to trial. And then they told the jury there was something even bigger than money and custody that was going to come into play. In the opening statements, they said, Becky didn't want their 3 children to be around the defendant's father unsupervised. Now, they didn't tell the jury why, but in that 48 hours interview that I told you about, they uncovered court documents that revealed Becky had gathered witnesses who had planned to testify at that divorce trial about Tim's father, Ray, and would allege that he had a history of perversion and abusing minor children many years earlier. He had sexually abused children. There were witnesses. They were going to testify on Becky's behalf to keep her kids away from him. And so that was another motive, be it for Tim or Ray pressuring Tim, either way. So again, before I go on, I want to again say that some of this information comes from the trial. Some of it comes from that 48 interview. Just the amount of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. As delusional as Tim is, like the way he just truly believes that he tries to convince people he didn't do this is just beyond me. And the fact that
he thinks he's smarter than everyone, and like, is that it? He's like,
just, the way he acts is like, it was. I mean, I'm not upset by it, but I didn't do it. Basically, like he didn't say it so much in those words, but he might as well have, because he was just never showed any emotion was never upset, just truly thought that this whole ordeal was ridiculous.
I mean,
just wanted to go home. Like, anyways, the alleged victims were not Becky or Tim's children. Becky sought an order of protection against Ray, as I mentioned, but that was denied. In a letter, Ray's lawyer wrote that Ray denied the claims and that he had never been charged with criminal offense.
I'm the one sighing today.
Information was going to come out that he didn't want to come out, and he started to feel like he was once again losing control of the situation. He had lost control of Becky. Now he was losing control of the divorce. The prosecution pointed out that on the day of Becky's murder, hours before anyone except her killer knew that she was dead, Tim brought a kid's basketball hoop to his father's home. In doing that, it was thought that he knew that Becky was not going to be a problem anymore. That Becky, you know, even though she didn't want the boys around Ray and she was going to fight this, in Tim's mind, that problem was now solved because he knew that Becky was dead. And that Ray would be spending more time with the boys. The prosecution wasn't done. The jury was shown numerous damaging searches from his phone. Again, like how to open my door with a crowbar, how to make a homemade pistol silencer, how to clean the residue gunpowder off of your hands.
Yuck.
Another neighbor testified that in January, he testified at court that Timothy had asked in January of 2023. Oh my gosh, let me start over. A neighbor testified that in January of 2023, a month before she was murdered, Timothy had asked if that neighbor had any video cameras that pointed towards Becky's backyard. He claimed he just wanted to make sure that Becky was safe since he was no longer living in the home. And as you remember, the person caught on camera in Becky's driveway on Valentine's Day, a week before the murders, well, prosecutors say that right after that sighting, Tim had made more than 200 searches online for a specific license plate and a car VIN number. It turns out that that license plate and VIN number belonged to a man who Becky had recently started dating, and his truck was parked in Becky's driveway on Valentine's Day. So basically, he had gone to her house to stalk her again. He saw that there was another man in the driveway. Once again, now he was losing even more control. And, you know, he had power issues. He had control issues. You realize, you know, your prior significant other is now in a relationship with somebody else, that they were spending the night on Valentine's Day. Then the minute you get back home, you're like literally searching their license plate and VIN number to try to find out who it was. And then his fucking attorney, man, her response to all of this, I mean, if I'm going to be checking out my husband's new girlfriend, I'm going to be doing it late at night after my kids are asleep. Bitch, what? How are you an attorney right now?
Wait, is that a quote?
Mm-hmm. She said, I mean, if I'm going to be checking out my husband's new girlfriend, I'm going to be doing it late at night after my kids are asleep.
Wasn't it late at night?
It was 1 a.m.
So...
He had gone over there.
So she just said, yeah, that's the time that he did it, right?
She was saying the reason he was making all those searches at 1 a.m. was not because he was over there stalking her. It was because it was 1 a.m. The kids were asleep, and that's the time he had to do it, because the kids were asleep and he had free time.
Oh my God.
When they asked his attorney, what about all of these searches that were found on Tim's phone? She responded, there's no date or time as to when those searches were done. So we don't know if they were done before the murder, and we don't know if they were done after the murder.
I love how she sounds like a Valley girl.
Okay, bitch. Why was he searching them, period? He was clearly plotting a murder either before or after. So if it wasn't her murder, it was somebody's murder. Like, nobody just randomly, unless they have a true crime podcast, searches these things. I'm sorry.
It's true. And and even if he wasn't planning on murdering, which he was
certainly obsessed with it.
He was obsessed with her, and then seeing that other man there was just was the catalyst. That was it. That was the spark. That's all he needed.
And also there were dates and times on the searches. And I mean, if you don't think there are, please be advised, if you make searches on your phone or computer, that there are records of the States. So anyways, before they rested the case, prosecutors dropped one more piece of evidence: spent shell casings that were found in Tim's home. An expert testified that she compared them to the shell casings found at the crime scene and determined that 27 of them had been fired from the exact same gun used in the murder. The ballistics expert stated each firearm leaves its own fingerprint on every shell casing that it fires. It has the same gun that killed Becky that fired these shell casings that were found in Tim's residence. To which Tim's just brilliant attorney said, well, that's the expert's opinion. At the end of the day, it's subject to human error like anything else. When it was the defense's turn to call witnesses, she didn't call one. And when they asked her in the 48 interview later why she didn't, like they said, you could have brought your own expert to say that those didn't match. And she said, well, I could have, but we were strapped on time and funds. It was a risky move, but one of that paid off for the defense.
Well, he gets to say he had ineffectual counsel.
Well,
right?
No.
Oh,
because she didn't call their witness. It, like I said, it was a very risky move. But it sort of paid off because when the jury began deliberating, they took a vote and there was a holdout. So they were not sure about what was going to happen. And in that 48 interview, his attorney stated, when the interview asked her again, why didn't you call your own expert? She said she was very snarky. She said, sometimes you just need one. Basically implying that if, you let the prosecutor's expert shoot themselves in the foot, you don't need your own expert. She was basically saying that would backfire on them because the jury wasn't holdout. However, it didn't fucking matter. The jury began deliberating after a 6-day trial. After 4 hours, there was a verdict. Timothy Bliefnick, who showed no emotion at the sentencing, was found guilty of first-degree murder. At the sentencing, Timothy's attorney requested leniency based on his clean criminal record prior to the murder, stating, and this is a direct quote from her, life without parole should be reserved for the worst of the worst. And Timothy is not the worst of the worst.
What makes somebody the worst? I mean, you shot
the
somebody
mother of your children
14 times.
So the judge, Robert Adrian, had the option of sentencing Tim to anywhere between 45 years in life, and he made the following statement. Oh, I will say he didn't get life because it was the death penalty. Excuse me, he didn't get the death penalty because it was abolished in Illinois back in 2012. So he probably would have been sentenced to death. But anyways, this is the judge's statement. And Mr. Bliefnick, you researched this murder. You planned this murder. You broke into her house and you shot her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times, raising his voice like each time. He says, I don't know how long it took you to do that, but some of those shots were fired while she was laying on the ground. And you did all of that while your children were asleep at your house, lying snug in their beds. The court believes the appropriate sentence would be natural life in prison. Tim Bliefnick has not been allowed any contact with his children since his arrest.
Wow.
And in November of 2024, he filed an appeal, but it was denied. So he does officially remain behind bars for the rest of his life because there are no more appeals. Wow. And so, unfortunately, that Becky passed away, but at least her kids are not with him.
I don't like that.
I know. I'm sorry. I will say Rebecca's family are the ones that have the children now. So
I always wonder, because there's so many stories that I listen to, like Dateline, where the kids don't believe that their parent could have done that. And I think part of it is like, well, no, my dad was so nice. I can't imagine he loved my mom, or, you know what I mean? Like they can't bring themselves to believe their other parent. Like, otherwise, they would have no parents.
So there were a lot of during
and
the
you said they were 3, 5, and 10.
Yeah, 3, 5, 10.
Yeah.
So in the trial, I will say, the victims' families are allowed to read impact statements.
Yeah.
And so this was her mother's. I'll just read some of these. So when you murdered their mother, you took away the person who loved them the most. Your soul is black with hate, and you should never be allowed to be, be free again. Her aunt was, basically said he ignored all of his vows. You promised to accept children lovingly from God and bringing them up in the face of Jesus, but there was not the only time you make empty promises before God and before that and before all the other witnesses of family and friends, once again standing before God during the baptism when he was done. Not only did you vow to reject Satan and all of his work and all of his empty promises, you promised to follow that you made for you and your baptism to proclaim the works of God and learn indeed to serve following the example of Jesus Christ. Set examples for your sons. The sons were Deacon, Grayson, and Arlen. Instead of holding her hand, you shot 14 bullets into her. Your boys now will see you as the coward that you are. One of Becky's cousins, spoke out and said, grief steeps into every crevice of our lives, even the smallest daily interactions. Like when her name and photos still appear in our family group text. Our lives are forever altered, scarred by the loss of someone we cherish, taken away from us. This was from Tim and Becky's brother-in-law. So this would have been Tim's brother-in-law, but Becky's brother. Did you think for even a split second about 5-year-old Arlen as you stood over his beloved mommy, just riddling her helpless body with 14 bullets? Arlen, who profoundly misses his mommy and whose life is now forever altered in unfair ways by losing his mommy, who was 1,000 times more to him than Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and more than you will ever be. Did you think about 10-year-old Grayson as you charged down his hallway, chasing his defenseless mommy en route to slaughter his entire world? Grayson, who wakes up in the middle of the night crying out for his mommy, who will now never come running. Did you think about your son Deacon after you broke through his window with a crowbar and climbed into his bedroom on your way to murder his mommy? Do you realize that you not only fired your gun at Becky, but you also fired at your 3 sons, myself, and a dozen other family members, and hundreds of friends, colleagues, patients, and members who are now forever reeling from the loss of their mother, their daughter, their sister, their friend, their devoted nurse? You had zero right to sentence our beloved Becky to death. And there was just, just so much more, talking about how their children will never know him. They will never allow them to know him. They will never allow them to see him, that he doesn't deserve their love. He doesn't deserve their forgiveness. And basically they said, our biggest fear is that your sons will fear that they'll turn out like you. And we hope to prevent that, because they deserve all the love in the world. And there was just so many people who stood up and spoke on Becky's behalf, because she was an amazing human being, and this piece of shit took her from everyone. Anyways, that's my story. There's in the resource notes, there's going to be the 48-hour interview, which is just really, really in depth. It's really good. It's worth checking out and listening to. If you really want to listen to more in depth about it, to hear from people that were involved, and to see this crazy attorney. Sorry.
Who sounds like a Valley girl.
I don't know if that's really what she sounds like. That's just how I hear her in my head, because good Lord, these answers.
We have, again, in our show notes, if you need help, we have the National Domestic Hotline, the Rape Crisis Hotline. If you need help, we've got those resources there for you. Again, if you see something, say something. If you have a friend that needs help, all you can do is offer your support. It's really hard to get them. They will isolate. They will cut you out if you try too hard. So be there. offer the resources. Just say, hey, it's a scary situation. The hardest thing to do is leave. It takes on average 7 attempts. I think it might have even gone up to 9 attempts for a victim of domestic violence to leave permanently because of the hurdles, because it's so hard. So just know that it is not easy. So the question of why don't they just leave is not that is making it so simple. And so just know that and have some grace. Give people grace and compassion on that front. Anyway, we have resources in the show notes.
Yes.
So, but if you need us, if you just need a vent, talk to us, reach out, please. We're here and we'll help you if we can. But anything else?
No, I think I've depressed everyone enough.
I know.
Sorry.
Shit, that was real. All right. Well, anyway, okay, everybody, we will see you next week. But until then, if you see something, say something, please. And please be kind to one another. This is a tough time. All right. See you all next week. Bye.
Bye.